wrestling in the whole world. Oh shit! It's Vince Russo! Whoa! Hold your horses there, Mr. Nerd, is it? That's it.
Welcome everybody to the You've Got to Be Kidding Me episode number 6, covering TNA history in November 2002. I'm Garrett Kidney. I'm joined as always by my co-host, Liam Jones. Liam, hello!
Hello, this is my favourite month of 2002.
Is it actually? Is this the peak of TNA for you?
No.
What has been your favourite month so far then?
Probably last month. Last month or the month before, because last month had all the X Division focus, but the month before is when they started setting up it being a wrestling show.
Oh yeah, that's a unique idea.
Yeah, so the last 2 months have been my favourite. This one was good for the first 2 weeks, and then fell off hard as things became more prevalent and it stopped being a wrestling show again.
It is quite interesting to see, like, really the wheels come off over the course of a month. That's what happened in this month.
And it's just so hilarious that it plays out the way it does on screen as well, because it's like, how perfect to see the booking fall apart as the booker is on the show.
Well, he's not Booker at all, Liam. He's not involved at all. He's only an on-screen character. We shall get into that
cool
as
guy.
we go through the episode. We've gotten straight into podcast content for once. This is unusual.
I know. It's because it's like, this is a big month. This is arguably the biggest month so far that we've had to cover.
And Vince Russo is just such an all-encompassing figure that he even eliminates pre-podcast banter. He's just like, you must talk about me at all times.
Yeah, well, it's because, we got Vince Russo, Jarrett winning the title, Panda Energy buying TNA. This is the big one.
So, some housekeeping notes before we do actually start in earnest. We did a Twitter poll this week.
Oh, yeah. By the way, our Twitter going off right now. Jump on the Twitter while you can, because we'll stop it eventually.
Liam will be very upset because it's coming closer and closer to overtaking his personal Twitter and followers, but
ugh, shivers down my spine.
It's just a platform from which he can now pontificate.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen. You'll notice I'm just going to start posting takes on there instead. I'll try and keep it vaguely TNA related.
Like your CM Punk tweet this week?
Yes, that was legitimately me. Oh, my fire alarm is going off.
Well, you should go check, is there a fire?
Nah, don't worry about it. Anyway, so... This is good. Okay, it's over now.
Your takes were too scorching hot that they set off the fire alarm.
Yeah, it's because our Twitter is too fire.
You're going to burn to the ground because of how good our Twitter is.
Oh, burn it down. That was me legitimately dipping my toes in. What if I just post things in general? Will anyone mind?
I don't think anybody will care.
Yeah, exactly. Or maybe they should care. Maybe that's the whole point.
So we did do a Twitter poll this week. 2 weeks ago we did the show via broad topic rather than segment by segment.
Too many shows.
Because there were 5 shows. And I was like, I'll ask, did you prefer we do it that way or we do it segment by segment? And with 102 votes, it was split 50-50. So...
Which means we have incredibly indecisive listeners. But also, fair play to us. Decent number of votes on that too. I was genuinely like, alright, here we go. It wasn't 4 people voting in a 50-50 split.
Yeah, people actually cared, but now we're in the dilemma of what do we do now that there is 51 people who want it one way and 51 people who want it the other.
Well, the answer is we'll do it however damn well we want to. Because we have control in the end, so...
That is true. So I figure we'll still just stick to broad topic, because I think that's going to make more sense, especially when we get to the monthly pay-per-view here, where we're going to be like, alright, what was the build to Jeff Hardy and Jeff Jarrett? What was the build to P.D. Williams and AJ Styles? What was the build to Triple X AMW? It'll make a lot more sense to do it that way when we get the monthly pay-per-views. So we will stick to broad topic, but when we're done, we'll do a pass through the shows for anything we might have missed.
Because I think there's... a decent chunk of people that will be listening to this who aren't watching the shows with us.
I would imagine the majority.
Yeah. I mean, you're cowards if you aren't. Commit to this bit as much as we are. Or we should be watching at least once a month with your bloody watch-along on our Patreon. That's what you should be doing.
Good plug.
For people who aren't, we'll do a rundown so people know what the stories and the themes of these shows are throughout, beyond just our broader points.
So that's how we will deal with our annoying Twitter tie. Be more decisive, Twitter people, please.
What's going to happen once we have to, end of year votes? Because we're coming up on December.
I suppose for the January 2002 episode, we will do some kind of end of year content.
Or even, maybe its own thing.
Or maybe a Patreon thing.
Yeah. I don't know. I think we should do an end of year thing, but I think we should, there'll be something. There will be something.
The other thing was last week you insisted I put Chris Rock's line into the opening of the episode. So,
Yes.
To make that a more consistent thing from now on, if there are any quotes with which we deem worthy to be in the opening of the episode, we will beef it up to add to Chris Rock's NWA-TNA is the best wrestling in the world.
Yeah. So we're gonna have what are we adding for this one?
Oh, we're definitely going to add 2 in this one. We're going to add Mr. Nerd, which we'll talk
Yes,
about.
okay. I wanted to make sure Mr. Nerd made it in there.
And we'll talk about Oh Shit, It's Vince Russo.
And oh shit, it's Vince Russo.
There's 2 that will make it in from this episode that you will hear a lot more about when we get deeper into talking about these wrestling shows.
It's like, you've got to be kidding me. Oh shit, it's Vince Russo, Mr. Nerd. TNA Wrestling is the best pro wrestling company in America.
It's no, in the world, Liam. Get Chris Rock's quote right. It's the world.
As soon as it left my lips, I knew that it was the world, because as I'm watching it, I would obviously think the same thing.
Because Chris Rock was sitting there in the middle of the ring, and he's like, it's better than WWE, it's better than New Japan Pro Wrestling, it's better than all these small British companies, nobody cares about any of them.
Yeah, he's like, hey, Ring of Honor, that's shit. yo, fuck Bryan Danielson, fuck CM Punk. He was just shooting in the ring. It was the original pipe bomb.
True strong style is TNA Wrestling with Brian Lawler.
Yeah, he goes out there and he's actually like, strong style is just a marketing term, idiots. Don't you know that it's like sports entertainment?
Chris Rock teaching people the history of pro wrestling right here in TNA.
I really love the idea of Chris Rock as a puro gatekeeper. If you haven't been watching Michinoku Pro this year, what are you doing? Why are you even here?
Chris Rock definitely watches GLEAT, though.
Oh, who doesn't? Garrett, who doesn't?
Who doesn't? That's a good question, Liam. Who doesn't? Is there perhaps a specific person in which you're implying doesn't via that statement? I don't know. I don't get this.
One of the people on this podcast. And it's not who you'd think.
Liam, yes.
Yes, I've never seen it.
Liam's a GLEAT phony. He's just like reading Wikipedia pages and just regurgitating it.
I have thought of like how great of a bit that would be to be one of these accounts that are like completely dedicated to a promotion and then just never watch it.
Just drop random takes about it without ever having to actually consider it.
Yeah, like be a Sendai Girls stan account and post like, Dash is the greatest wrestler in the world. Her year has been on fire. It's like, just with no context or understanding of that statement at all.
That would be a good bit. That would be a solid bit.
Yeah, but like, and be like super aggressive about it too.
No, you're wrong. It's what makes her the best in the world. It's like, oh.
No, if someone like goes, you're wrong, you just like quote tweet it with cringe. This guy doesn't think Dash is the best in the world this year. Then you get like 4 people with Joshi avatars liking it, and you'll be like, I have succeeded in this bit.
Those are the backpats you truly need in the world.
I mean, you'd rather them on your side than against you.
That is true. I think Deep Joshi Twitter is probably like Divastan Twitter in that the second they're against you, it's the most unbearable thing in the world.
I had a brief taste of it with the AEW tweet that I made a while ago.
Oh yeah, you got the Joshi toxic people being like, why don't you just watch Joshi? And you're like, I do!
My favorite thing about that whole circumstance was if they just scrolled like down one tweet on my feed, it was gifs of fucking Seedling.
Yeah, but Seedling is too mainstream. You gotta go deeper into Joshi.
Is it? I think I had ice ribbon gifs there as well.
Still too mainstream.
Ah, sorry.
You got to watch some grimy Puro. Is there grimy Joshi? I don't even know.
Yeah. I mean, there is, but from my understanding, I mean, like, it's still relatively popular, like, for the level that it is. More popular than the male or intergendered companies of the same level.
So clearly they shall become Joshi companies.
And most companies should.
TNA should become a Joshi company.
Oh, that rule in 2002.
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone would be treated very well.
They wouldn't do anything bad. Not like there was a month full of bad stuff.
Speaking of bad,
So we are talking about November 2002. The big story this month is that Panda Energy have officially bought TNA. On the October 30th pay-per-view, they actually went to talent and told them that Panda has officially bought the company. Panda is now owner of the company. There is some disputes about the ownership breakdown. I know for a long time it was reported, I think, that Panda had 71% of the company, and it's probably where they ended up with. But the Jarretts do claim that it was a 51-49 situation here when they actually bought the company in the first place. But nonetheless, Panda is majority shareholder. Panda is owner of the company. J&J Entertainment that you see at the end of all of the episodes doesn't exist anymore. It's gone. It has been replaced with TNA Entertainment because it has been bought out by Panda Energy. So the TNA as an entity officially exists now.
What a road we've been on to get here.
Yeah, the company failed and then somebody bought it.
See, that's all it takes. I was gonna say, like, why does any company ever fail? Like, you should just get bought out, idiots.
Yeah, and then some big oil tycoon company. Well, I'm not sure they're oil. What do Panda Energy do?
They crush up the bones of pandas and turn it into some sort of sustainable energy source.
My God, that's brutal. Their logo is actually a panda, which is fair enough. They're called Panda Energy, but I wonder, is that? Oh, I've now worked it all out. This is the World Wildlife Fund.
Oh no!
And they're like, first of all, our plan to succeed in pro wrestling is to make WWE change their name so that they'll have less brand equity, and then we'll buy their competition, and then we'll take over the world.
And step 3, take over the world.
Panda Energy, I think, made their money in power plants, but they also do a bunch of oil and gas. So there you go.
Oh, sounds like a cool company. And if they want to buy a podcast, feel free.
My favorite thing about the Panda Energy Wikipedia page is like half of it is TNA and half of it is Panda Energy.
That's really funny.
This company, this billion-dollar energy company's major legacy is TNA wrestling.
I wonder if they were ever like super embarrassed at like some big like energy conference or something, and some other like Origin walks up and is like, "Hey, Panda Energy, how's that TNA wrestling going?"
Yeah, their competitors is like, wrestling company, really, guys?
And Bob's like, "Oh, it's cool, I swear."
When they go to like the big annual company review or retreat, and just like the wrestlers are there.
Yeah, it's a mixture of the wrestlers and the employees from the Panda Energy side.
It's Brian Lawler and Bruce hanging around with the company people.
Yeah, everyone's just getting real fucked up.
I was going to say the Dups, because they would have been a good example of people in the corporate world who would jar against the corporate world, but the Dups aren't around anymore, so... But yes, Panda bought the company. Official owners, they as I said, they held a meeting with talent on the 30th, and Chris Sabala is basically in and running the company, or at least running the finances of the company, and holding those purse strings quite tightly by all accounts, because there's some stories during the month about how like he's trying to slash production costs, he's trying to get things down to as little as Panda can spend on each individual television taping.
Sweet.
Because that's how business works. It's slashing costs to the very bone and getting by. I suppose when you have this company who is just losing money hand over fist, this company that is not bringing in nearly as much as they are spending, I can't really blame a corporate overlord for being like, listen guys, we are going to spend as little on producing this 2 hours of content as we humanly can.
But we swear we're all in.
We are committed to this and dedicated to this.
We are committed to this to an extent.
We do not want to throw money hand over fist at your stupid wrestling ideas.
It's like, listen, we're committed, but this is the vanity project. Don't get it twisted. This is the fun side gig.
Yeah, and like legitimately, there are some stories during the month that it's just like they're seeing this as like a renegade investment to get into the wrestling market and shake things up. It's like, yeah, all right, they're doing this basically as a Bob Carter got some notions and decided to buy a wrestling company.
It's a bit to Bob Carter.
It was a very expensive bit by the end of it, but it's probably nothing to him, so who cares?
Yeah, it's a drop in the bucket.
So the disputes between Jarrett and Vince Russo continued throughout the month in many ways, and it is, as we will discuss when we get to talking about the content of these shows, increasingly difficult to separate fact from fiction on these TNA wrestling shows. On the October 30th show, Russo expected to arrive and be crowned like the head of creative, but nope, Jerry Jarrett was still in charge, so Russo wasn't at that show, he wasn't at the November 6th show, and he wasn't at the November 13th show. But then, all of a sudden, he was revealed to be Mr. Wrestling 3 on the November 20th show, which was a plan as far back as I think the character was introduced. That character, that Mr. Wrestling 3 character, was always introduced, meant to be introduced as Vince Russo. That wasn't a twist or a swerve or a change of direction. So, while they are putting out in public, a lot of people are putting out in public that there is this dispute and this war going on between Jerry Jarrett and Vince Russo, which I think there actually legitimately was. They are also, on the flip side, trying to turn Vince Russo into a television character.
I don't know if they all are trying to turn Vince Russo into a television character, but it's really evident how much this sucks, because even just reading about Russo sends groans and shivers down my spine. I feel worse for having mentioned the name. Everything he does, it just turns to slime, and I'm not looking forward to the next 2 years of on-screen Vince Russo.
Because we're moving fully into the sex era, Liam.
I mean, that I am excited for, but yeah, and it's so evident. It's the amount of clean finishes on these shows has dropped dramatically.
Mm-hmm.
Everything has some bullshit ending, some DQ, some weapon going in, something backfiring. It's so much harder to invest and to watch these things.
And a lot of the dumb character elements are coming back, and we're fully moving into the work shoot here of this company. There's going to be more in December and more in January, where the whole idea of the show is, let's work the internet, let's work the roster. Because the big thing about that Vince Russo reveal is they worked the roster.
Yeah, who cares about working the fucking roster?
Especially for a reveal about Vince Russo. It'd be one thing, it's we don't want to tell the roster CM Punk is debuting on our show, even though everybody knows it was happening. But we're not going to tell our roster because we want it to be a big surprise. And I think most of the roster is probably fine with that. The roster is probably not fine with this guy who you have told them repeatedly that he's not working for the company, suddenly showing up as a surprise television character in the main event. I don't think the roster are going to be quite pleased that you worked them on that.
Also someone who, the initial instinct is going to be, this person has control over creative stuff.
Yeah, and they've been denying it from before the existence of this company. From May 2002, they've been denying that Vince Russo has any creative involvement in this company over and over and over again, no matter how much he's backstage. He's just producing pre-tapes. He's not actually, he's just helping with the interviews. He doesn't actually have any meaningful role in creative. Even when he showed up on TV, that was the company line. He doesn't have any role in creative. It's guys, would you stop it? So would you stop working these poor people?
The fact that you feel like you have to lie about this is probably indicative of the fact that you shouldn't have this guy involved in the creative process.
It was the 2014 thing. It's just
yeah.
If you have to have him in hiding, if you have to not tell people that he's working for you, why do you insist on having him work for you? If it has to be a secret, if so much of the roster will be upset and furious and angry at the fact that Vince Russo is the person responsible for their creative, if that's the case, why are you hiring him?
He's just not worth the hassle.
And I know why they're hiring him. He's Jeff's friend. That's why they're hiring him, but...
Really? Nepotism in the TNA?
God forbid.
Hmm.
So it's bizarre to see that play out behind the scenes and in public, because in his book Jerry Jarrett outlines the entire sex story, where he's Vince Russo will come in, and I think legitimately Jerry Jarrett's if I make this guy an on-screen character, he will leave me alone and stop trying to oust me out of my own company.
No, he'll just shoot on you in the middle of the ring and call you a piece of shit.
And threaten to fight you. But again, we'll get to that when we cover the shows. Vince Russo.
Let's make an honest attempt here, right now, to get all of our Vince Russo stuff out of the way. Because we can't do this for the next 24 episodes.
I think we can. I think we can just be for the rest of this entire podcast, it's just me and you just going... So
I'm going to make a concerted effort to not go Vince Russo every time, but I want it to be known that it's implied in everything I say from this point forward. I will never say anything without that implication on my sentence, on my thoughts about Vince Russo. So that's it for now. I'm going to try to not do it and groan every time his name is brought up. But let it be known, internally it's there.
Yeah, sometimes people are like, hey, you shouldn't reveal the subtext. You should have the deeper art. You should have to examine the art with understanding. But no, we will tell you the subtext of everything we say is Vince Russo. There's some wonderful Jarrett quotes in his book. It's Vince Russo is a terrible writer. He has no appreciation of quality in-ring work. He is extreme in crudeness, sexual content, language, and he has no limits regarding principles, religious principles. And there's an even better one on November 11th in his book. Jeff seems to discount the fact that Vince Russo has been a complete failure at everything he has attempted.
I like, because of the way it's structured, it feels like that was a Bible psalm. 10-11 Jerry. Jeff seems to be discounting the fact that Russo has been a complete failure at everything he's attempted. So says the Lord.
We should insert that into the Bible. I'm going to find like a major Bible publisher and I'm just going to slide that in there and see does anybody notice.
No one's actually read it, it's fine.
It shall be recited in church and studied in prayer circles, and Vince Russo's fraud nature will be considered a religious doctrine.
As it should be.
So the big person who wasn't happy about Vince Russo, the person who was flat out refusing to work with Vince Russo, because there was like, Jerry was like, oh, a lot of people won't work for TNA anymore if Vince Russo is head of creative. And like Scott Hall stopped showing up for some other reasons as well. But one of the people was Sean Waltman, who did in fact quit. The second he saw that Vince Russo was revealed as an on-air character, he quit.
Sean Waltman is the fucking man.
Because, like, Sean Waltman was having some trouble. He dislocated his hip in one of the matches with AJ. And then, like, he has one match this month where he actually shows up, which is the match against Brian Lawler, where he apparently is doing quite badly. His hip is not doing particularly well in that match, even though it was only, like, 5 minutes long. So he ends up no-showing the November 13th show. And he doesn't inform them that he's no-showing until, like, an hour beforehand because he missed his flight. And, like, it must be said, it's Sean Waltman. So...
Grain of salt.
There's, more of a mountain of salt than a grain of salt.
A mountain of something, but...
He didn't show up for the November 13th show, and when the Russo was revealed on the November 20th show, he quit. He quit, and he did not come back. And they were trying to like get him back because they were thinking, oh, wouldn't it be great because you could build the real heat with Vince Russo into a story, because that's the way wrestling always thinks. It's like, no, that we can't make this guy who's unhappy at what we're doing happy. We want to incorporate his unhappiness into our television story. Especially
the worked shoot era, I'm sure that would have led to some very entertaining moments, some very sports entertaining moments.
Waltman's quote for a statement he released: "I'm very sad things have come to this, but from day one, I made it clear if Vince Russo had anything to do with concerning me, there would be no deal. Vince Russo has no respect for wrestling or the importance of the matches themselves to the success of the product in general. I wish them the best, but Russo having anything to do with the product, they are pissing in the wind."
Tremendous.
And I imagine there are people at the time who were like, oh, it's probably a work. And I know even Dave Meltzer was mentioning in The Observer, it's like, oh, it might be, people think it's a work, but no, it's actually, the heat here is real. And you can tell, at least in this instance, the heat here was in fact real, because Waltman did in fact never come back.
Until
2005, until Russo was gone. So
yeah, it's so funny that like, even just, you know, stuff I haven't seen yet, but obviously things I have heard, that like 05 is like this golden era for TNA, and it's just, oh yeah, Vince left.
And it's the same thing. In 2012, Russo leaves, and you get the best like run of TV in ages, and then they bring him back at the start of 2014, and you get the worst run of TV in like the history of the company. Then Vince leaves again when his secret hiring is ousted in the middle of 2014, and you get the best run of TNA TV again. It's like
an absolute virus.
There is a consistent, like, trend in this company. Like, Russo, bad. Russo gone. TV suddenly becomes very good.
If only they, like, had have just learnt that mistake in 05.
So you feel the power seep away from Jerry through the entire month.
Yeah, and it's, like, it's quick. It's quick and it's sad. It's really unfortunate to watch.
And, like, Again, a quote from Jerry when he's outlined that he outlines the entire sex plan. The plan is for Russo to come in and feud with the traditional NWA. I know it's bizarre to say he outlined the entire sex plan, and that's meant to make sense. The Sports Entertainment Extreme stable, in case you're not familiar, was the Vince Russo stable. You will hear a lot more about in the coming weeks and months of this podcast.
I'm looking forward to actually learning what it's all about.
You want to learn all about sex.
Yeah, I'm like, maybe I'll be sex positive. Who knows?
So he outlines the entire plan about how Vince Russo would lead sex against traditional NWA wrestling, and how there'd be an NWA belt and a sex belt, which was the plan.
I want to know who would have been the sex champion.
And Jerry's quote, well, it would be Bruce. Clearly.
I don't know who Bruce is anymore, sorry. Also, Bruce is a babyface. Obviously would be in the NWA.
Then it's who else? Brian Lawler? He's getting around.
He sure is. That being said, Brian Lawler's been great this whole time, so sure.
The quote in Jerry's book, the future problem would be if Russo attempts to become an influence in the writing of the show. Only time will determine if he can limit his ambition to working as a talent.
No, Jerry, learn! Learn from the mistakes of your past! The mistakes of everyone's past!
Then you cut to the narrator voice. He didn't learn. So, yeah, that's a lot of Vince Russo. Panda officially owning the company. There's some other small bits and bobs, small notes. Low-key and TNA officials were unable to come up with a way to work around his scheduled Japan dates because he was working for 01. TNA basically wanted a month's notice of like Loki's TNA or Japan dates so they could work around it, and he couldn't really give them. So Loki has not been a feature on the show for the entire month.
Loki's like, I don't really know, I'm sorry. I get a call like 3 days ahead of time and then I'm in Japan.
And he can't be in TNA as a result. And I think we do miss Loki on these shows.
Yeah. Yeah. But let's be real. If he was on these shows, he'd probably be like fucking banging someone or something. It's not like he'd be just having cool low-key matches anymore.
Nobody's allowed to do that anymore.
No.
They explored numerous avenues, including connections they had when trying to sell the company to the country music industry. With Sawyer Brown, and my favourite note, even Billy Corgan of the Smashing Pumpkins.
Holy shit.
From the very beginning, they were looking to sell TNA to Billy. That's remarkable.
That's like, right there is an alternate reality, you know?
Where Billy, at the beginning...
Billy buys it at the start.
Ground floor, Billy Corgan gets in on wrestling in 2002 with TNA.
He's like forever linked with this company somehow.
Constantly linked with buying it is the way he's linked with it.
He really wanted TNA.
From 2002 all the way through to 2016. It's a long-term story. It's the longest-term narrative arc in the history of TNA that will Billy buy TNA?
Yeah, I wish Billy had have bought it. I want to see that reality so badly.
But he wouldn't have his mighty Billy faves. He wouldn't have Marche Rocket all the way back in 2002. What would he do?
But imagine he'd bring him in. He'd bring him in eventually, you know, and then there'd be big stars because it'd be Billy's vision.
Fascinating to see what would happen if Billy... doesn't even know how far that got or whether it was just like, hey, Billy, you want to buy it? And Billy was like, no. So that could have been the extent of the conversation. But just the fact that his name was mentioned around buying TNA all the way back in 2002 is quite fun.
Tremendous.
Roddy Piper has expressed an interest in working TNA shows to promote his book. You might hear more about that next month.
I think he does.
Yeah, in our December episode in 2 weeks. You might hear more about that. Another fun tease for the future. During his weekly appearance on XM Radio, Jeremy Borer said that the company is currently negotiating with Fox Sports Network, but didn't elaborate further. That's a story that we will not hear more about for 2 years.
Let's say people really just giving shit out on the fucking radio. Didn't they? They had a whole discussion about this like a couple months ago.
Yeah, stop leaking things. This isn't even a leak. This is literally just saying things on public radio stations. Does that count as a leak?
Yes, that's the biggest leak of all.
I usually think leaks happen in private, though.
I think all that determines a leak is if the information wanted to be out or not.
Yeah, maybe they did want that information out. Maybe they were like, "Hey, Jeremy, leak that so we can get people some people excited."
Leak it. Your own verbiage has turned against you.
There had been interest in Bobby Heenan, and apparently an agreement was come to, but then Heenan was like, I don't want to deal with Russo. And then he was like, all right, maybe I might deal with Russo, but for the right price.
Guys, no one wants to work for him. Maybe that's indicative of something.
And they sold their first international TV deal to the Middle East, parts of the Middle East and Asia with Star Television, where they were getting $550,000 for 2 years. So that's a decent chunk of change, at least. That's money at the company that they don't have.
It's money that wasn't there before.
So those are the major notes. The major happening is Panda officially like sealing the deal, which actually technically happened in October, but didn't come out until November. But there you go. That's Panda and Russo. The two things that are most important in TNA history: the money and the creative.
Yeah, real solid efforts on both sides.
Some real both sides things going on here, isn't there?
That's the tale of two cities is quite literally all of this company.
Oh dear. So that brings us to the shows. The 4 shows in November. NWA-TNA pay-per-views 20 through 23 are the shows we will cover. November 6th, 13th, 20th, and 27th, all in the Nashville Asylum, with attendances ranging from 800 to 1100. Attendances did go up through the month, so they did have like the Jarrett title change, and they did have the Russo stuff, so there was, at least in typical fashion, some interest in it before it probably went off the rails.
People were invested in the Jarrett chase, I feel, and him actually getting there.
I think that was one of the better stories of the month, because they did go back to like traditional old school pro wrestling for a little bit, where like Jarrett ends the second pay-per-view of the month, NWA pay-per-view TNA and NWA-TNA. God, my brain's shutting down.
NWA-TNA pay-per-view number 21.
Jarrett ends that show with his go-home promo, which is just like a traditional pro wrestling go-home promo. He comes out, he talks about how he wants to win the belt, how it's his journey, how the traditions of the NWA that he wants to live up to and the ideals, and obviously that's setting up a swerve in another way, but still, it's fun to see them do a good, traditional, old-school go-home promo instead of some kind of nonsense.
And preparing myself for some kind of nonsense.
So yeah, the big story of the month as we go into broad topics, for the half of you that want broad topics, was Jeff Jarrett winning the NWA title from Ron Killings. He defeated him on NWA-TNA pay-per-view number 22, in which Vince Russo was revealed to be Mr. Wrestling number 3.
By God.
Yeah, there was a whole story through the first 2 shows where like they were trying to reveal the identity, so Ron Killings offered Mr. Wrestling 3 a title match. Mr. Wrestling 3 did not accept that title match because they thought it was Jarrett, and then Jarrett was like, I'm not Mr. Wrestling 3, I'm not accepting this title match because I'm not Mr. Wrestling 3. Then he earned his title match by winning a tournament that kind of fell apart because Sean Waltman stopped participating in it due to injury. But again, Jarrett beat BG, and Jarrett beat Hennig in order to win his number 1 contendership, and beat Killings to become world champion with the first guitar shot in TNA history, Liam.
It's an historic moment, and not from the person you think to do it.
Yeah, there are 2 guitar shots in the month of November. The first one is by Mr. Wrestling 3 to Ron Killings, and then the second one is by Jeff Jarrett to a ring post.
That's truly like all that we were talking about at the start, like the big build up to when Jarrett will finally use the guitar, and it's like, oh, he won't.
Yeah, his big guitar shot in the month of November is destroying it on the ring post because he does not want to use the guitar.
Because he's a big babyface.
It's weird. He's not. Because in Jerry's book, he literally outlines it's like all the programs he's going to work as a heel, and then he's like, oh, we can turn you face after that, and then you can be, we can run all those programs back. And then you're like, wait, he's meant to be a babyface on this show, or a heel on this show?
I don't know, maybe, it's so confusing. I don't know who's a face or who's a heel, or, like, Russo's being a fucking cunt in the ring, and then people are cheering him, and then some boo him, and then it's nothing, it's so insane, and it's hard to follow, and nothing matters.
Like, I guess you could argue Jarrett against Killings is heel versus heel, even though Ron is likable, Jarrett's not very likable, but the crowd are kind of behind Jarrett, because Jarrett cut his big babyface promo.
Yeah, Jarrett set himself up as the face for the match. And then he also didn't take the help from Mr. Wrestling 3. Yeah,
so he's, at the very least, not aligned with Russo, even if he's still a heel? I don't know. It's impossible to work out. You cannot work out.
Is Russo still a Klansman here?
Maybe, probably. Again, no way of knowing.
Yeah. This was a whole to-do, but it felt very TNA, didn't it? This is the most TNA we've witnessed yet.
Yeah, this is a very TNA month. Actually, I think the Russo promo the next week is the most TNA has TNA'd up until this point, but...
I meant the whole Russo stuff over this month and the Jarrett stuff over this month.
Yeah, it does feel like... Because, as you mentioned, when we were starting the show, when you were talking about how, like, oh, last month was your favorite month. Last month was just kind of like a normal pro wrestling month. It's just like, we'll do matches, we'll do our stories. It's a pretty normal month. There's problems with it because it's TNA, and there's never not going to be problems with it. But It did feel like there's like, let's do some straightforward pro wrestling, and now it's like the month started with some relatively straightforward pro wrestling.
You watch it unravel throughout the month.
You do. You watch the identity of the promotion kind of slowly explode over the course of a month. So Jarrett is NWA champion, the moment that we've all been waiting for. There's actually a very interesting note in Jerry's book where he says, this show is very important because I've decided that after Jeff chasing the belt for 21 weeks, it might hurt his credibility and the company's credibility for him to continue being denied. The more interesting part of that, the fact that Panda now has a controlling interest deflects what little negative could come from Jeff being an owner and also the champion. It's interesting to see that Jerry was like, because Jeff is no longer like fully in control of this company, Panda is majority shareholder, we can make him champion without the fear that there's blowback.
You know what the funniest thing about this is?
What?
The guy that they kicked out of this company is the only person I've ever seen in charge of this company with a shred of self-awareness. Like, it's so hilarious that, like, wait, this guy's thinking about things? Get him the fuck out of here.
The fact that he's thinking about, well, you know, because Panda owns the company now, we'll get less blowback from the internet.
Perspective? What?
I'm pretty sure that's not a quality people have in spades in pro wrestling, so...
But yeah, that's why we had to get him out of there. He was thinking too much about the things that we were putting on television and trying to earn money from.
I'm legitimately stunned it took 22 weeks for a guitar shot, though. Do you think they were saving it? It's like, we're going to do the first guitar shot for the title change when Jarrett wins the belt.
Yeah, but like, then they wasted it.
They gave it to Vince Russo.
Like, you could have at least had, like, you know, Russo brings it in, Killings kicks him out, guitar's in the ring, Jarrett takes the guitar, whacks it over, Killings wins the title. It's like, that's a way more satisfying payoff than Russo limply throwing it into the back of Ron's head.
Only a few people know for sure that Russo was going to be revealed as Mr. Wrestling 3. It's mostly the people in the office, so you had like Bob Ryder, Jeremy Borash, and Mortimer Plumtree. Everybody else was worked.
That's what you got to do. Never want to build trust with your employees, alright? That's something we've got to take away from this. You never want to have trust with your employees because then that might inspire loyalty, and that's one thing you don't want in a company.
No, you never want people to be like, you know what, this is a good place to work, this is a place where I can trust my bosses, and I've never like left out in the cold or left out not knowing what's going on. That's no, you never want that. That's bad.
You want uneasiness, you want a toxic work environment, you want people to feel unsafe, you want people to think of greener pastures elsewhere, because that inspires fear. And that's how you control your backstage environment.
You never want people to know they're on a sure footing. You never want people to know that what you're telling them is actually true and not some dumb shit that you're going to use to set up an angle on the TV show. Nah, you never want any of that.
Can't trust them. Remember they were leaking stuff like 2 months ago?
So they deserved this. This is what they get.
This was their punishment for stuff that Jerry was definitely doing.
You want to leak stuff? Well, we're not going to tell you anything, and you're going to be mad at us.
Yeah, and then you're going to leave.
There's even a quote in the Torch that Jarrett was pleased that wrestlers seemed to be surprised backstage.
Well, at least it worked. It'd be more embarrassing if they were trying to keep it from everyone, and then everyone still knew.
So Jarrett's champion, Russo's on the show, which really came into more relevance on the following show, NWA-TNA pay-per-view number 23, where we entered the worked shoot era in full. So Mike Tenay starts the show. They cut to Mike Tenay, and Mike Tenay just does a promo about, like, this is the thing. Mike Tenay does this promo about how Vince Russo killed WCW, Vince Russo cost him his job, and he hates Vince Russo's guts. And we're telling the viewer, the person buying this show every week, that this man is responsible for the death of the second largest wrestling company in America, and now he is responsible for this company. And, like, why is the story here that the guy that's in charge is terrible?
Well, the idea here is that he's not actually in charge on camera, you know what I mean? Like, the kayfabe is that he isn't in charge. But the reality is very different, which makes the whole segment hilarious.
But, like, Vince Russo comes out after Mike Tenay threatens, and, like, if you want to know why Mike Tenay doesn't like Vince Russo, Mike Tenay was booked in a match in WCW against Madeja. Tenay refused, and because his contract said that he was an announcer and not a wrestler, they couldn't force him. But Vince Russo apparently never forgives these kind of things, but nonetheless, Mike Tenay is like, I'm not wrestling. I'm an announcer. Leave me alone.
I have no interest in smacking the back of my head against the mat a few times.
That is not a thing which is good for my brain. Therefore, I'm not going to do it.
All right, cowboy. You ready to shoot? Pew, 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 pew.
Yeah, so after Mike Tenay does his little shoot promo about how terrible Vince Russo is and how he destroys the business. My favorite part of that, by the way, is after Mike Tenay does that, they cut to Don, and Don is like, you know what, I've never met the guy. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Don doesn't pass judgment based on what other people say.
And then Mike is like, if he cost you your job, you'd know. And Don's like, you know what, that's a good point.
Also, Don's like, Mike is my friend. I will support him in his hatred of this guy.
So Vince Russo comes to the ring. Mike Tenay is meant to be doing an interview with Jeff Jarrett, and then Vince Russo interrupts them, shoves Mike Tenay out of the way, calls him bad, which is clearly the worst thing Vince Russo has ever said, is that Mike Tenay is bad at his job because he's like the best thing on these shows.
It's also really stupid that this guy comes out here and he's like, Mike, you're bad, the show's bad, everything sucks, who would pay for this shit?
It's such a reoccurring trend through all of TNA history that all they ever do, over and over again, is tell you how terrible and bad and awful the show you're watching is.
Well, we're seeing it on the Patreon series too when we're going through the Monday Night Wars. Like, what's some of like half the shit that Eric Bischoff says when he's on screen is, "Oh, the company sucked."
Everything you've watched up until we took over is utterly pointless and bad. What are you doing, you stupid idiots?
Why are you spending money on this?
Even go back to the first show where like Jarrett and Hall and Shamrock came out, and it's like, the creative of this show is bad, it sucks, why are we doing this battle royal?
It's been there from the beginning, which is kind of hilarious too. That's the other biggest through line.
Like, legitimately, we're not going to put it in the show open as a noteworthy quote, but Vince Russo just says the words, "This product sucks." Those are his exact words. This product sucks.
Maybe we should put that in there, right at the end. After the Chris Rock line, where he's like, TNA is the best promotion in the world. This product sucks.
But we're actually talking about our podcast instead of that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's when it says, you've got to be kidding me. This product sucks.
So Vince Russo goes full worked shoot where he's talking about the history of WCW and the history of Jeff
I don't even know what's worked. You know what I mean? Like, my man was just taking veiled threats at Jerry Jarrett.
Yeah, that's another one where he's like, if you cut my mic, Jerry... Jerry Jarrett's not a character on this show. Jerry Jarrett's never been on this show. Nobody who watches this TV show knows who Jerry Jarrett is. And yet, Vince Russo's like, he's threatening to smack the shit out of him if he cuts his mic. Which, to be fair, I would take that challenge. If Vince Russo's like, I'll smack the shit out of you if you do anything, I'd be like, I'll do it. You can't smack the shit out of anything.
I mean, no, we're not doing it's a fiery promo.
I'll give it to Vince Russo. It was well delivered. You can never deny him that. But the content of the promo was absolutely dreadful. Because he went through Jeff Jarrett's career where he's like, you were a nobody in the WWF, but when I got the book, I made you good. I made you a star. Then you were a nobody in WCW, and you were begging me to jump over to WCW.
Here's my promo. My promo is, I'm going to come out here. I'm going to tell you the show you're watching is bad and the promotion you're watching is bad. I'm going to tell you that the NWA World Champion is bad. Then I'm going to tell you that wrestling's fake. And then I'm going to tell you that Jeff Jarrett was bad. And then I'm going to punch an old man that you don't know.
Yeah, to be fair, threaten to punch an old man that you don't know.
Yeah. Just a cavalcade of great stuff.
It goes back to Vince Russo's like core misunderstanding of pro wrestling, though, doesn't it? His core misunderstanding of why people like this thing. Like, they want to invest in the stories and the characters and the chases for the titles. That's pro wrestling. But he constantly can't understand that, so he has to constantly tell you pro wrestling is fake. This isn't real. I'm the writer. I'm the booker. The real drama here, the real tension, the real thing that you should be interested in is the behind-the-scenes stuff, which we're going to have spill over onto the television show at all times, while we tell you that I booked this guy before and I want to book him again, and this old man backstage is stopping me from booking him again.
Well, it comes down to the core of he doesn't like pro wrestling. Like, really, what Vince Russo should have been doing was directing some Big Brother fucking-esque show where he was like the guy making the challenges for people on the fucking reality TV show. He shouldn't have been in pro wrestling.
But the problem is he was never a good enough writer to write any TV, so...
I'm not saying you had to write good TV. Go write Road Rules.
There's a reason the dude is doing a podcast these days. Like,
hey, wait a minute.
if he was good enough to write literally any TV other than pro wrestling, which he wasn't even good enough to write in the first place, but he got the job and got so many jobs that people just kept on hiring him. But if he was good enough to write TV, TV companies would have hired... There's never been more TV out there. Never more reality TV, never more non-fiction TV, never more scripted TV out there. If you can't get a writing gig if you're a writer now, you're just not a good writer.
Ed Ferrara got a gig.
Yeah, he's teaching creative writing at Full Sail, so that he's teaching...
Yeah, you know who isn't teaching creative writing at Full Sail?
The Full Sail is no longer associated with WWE, so Ed Ferrara is not teaching the WWE writers of the future anymore.
Well, he did for like the last 4 years, so maybe that's the problem.
That's where NXT went wrong. Hiring Ed Ferrara's kids. So yeah, Russo does this full promo, and in the match afterwards, Don's like, you know what, Mike? After I saw Vince cut that promo, I know why you hate him.
Which is such a great realization. It took like literally 5 minutes.
And Mike TNA is like, now you'll get why I wanted to quit. And Don, in like the most like charming self-deprecating thing, it's like, oh, you shouldn't quit. No one wants to see me do play-by-play. Bless Don. Don is an absolute treasure on these shows.
Someone has to be.
I will say, I did enjoy both of the Jarrett Killings matches. I don't think they're like blow away, you know, you've got to watch them, but I think they're the better heavyweight title matches they've had in this company's history so far.
I'd agree. There's nothing there that's blow away or even stuff you have to go seek out, except maybe just to see Jarrett winning his NWA title, but it was, you know, they were fine heavyweight matches. Nothing's ever going to touch... Nothing in the heavyweight division is going to touch anything in the X division at this point.
At the very least, they're better than the Shamrock matches, so it has that going for them.
You could actually probably say, like, this is the... As far as, like, everything... I mean, maybe even the X division, that this month had the best title matches so far.
Yeah, as you mentioned. But even the X division had two, like, Styles and Lynn bangers.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, and they had the red thing too, so like this could definitely have. You could even say that. You could probably say that all the titles had their, except for obviously Miss TNA, which wasn't defended.
Tug on your collar. So yeah, Jarrett beat Killings to win the title, and then to close off the story for the month, Jarrett defeated Killings in the rematch to retain the title, where he was not refusing to take the guitar from Russo again. So the story here, the tension is that Vince Russo wants to help Jeff Jarrett, but Jeff Jarrett doesn't want his help.
I wish that was real life.
Yeah, it is a weird inversion of like the real life situation where Vince Russo wants to help Jeff Jarrett. His dad doesn't want Vince Russo to help Jeff Jarrett, but Jeff Jarrett desperately wants Vince Russo to help Jeff Jarrett. They even did an angle after the match where Dave Meltzer reported, nobody knows this story, but they're figuring it'll get reported and everyone will know. Killings came back in the dressing room screaming that Russo was shooting on him by punching him for real in the ring. He looked to be throwing these windmill blows that were connecting, but he's not a trained worker. So they're even trying to do like these angles where it's like Killings is faking being mad at Vince Russo for quote unquote shooting on him. But
God,
nobody
this
cares.
Is such stupid shit.
It's always stupid. Like all this, the work shoot stuff is just not. It just does not understand pro wrestling. And even when they're good, even when there's a good worked shoot promo, it never lasts and turns into anything good. It's just like you get the one. Even if you liked Vince Russo on this second show, like even if you're like, you know what, he cut that promo with fire and passion. It was well delivered. And if he said that to me, I wouldn't disagree because it is well delivered. But it goes nowhere. It never goes anywhere. And they keep doing stuff like this.
I think it's because fans can immediately tell if something's genuine or not. And to do something like this with Ron backstage, people just aren't going to buy it. Like, when things come out from backstage and they're legitimate, that does get fan excitement. Like, how many years do people want fucking Riddle and Lesnar or Riddle and Goldberg just because they heard the backstage stories of Riddle? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's... not all the backstage stories are Riddle. But now it's like, if it's something that isn't genuine and it's something planned, especially with Russo on TV, you're gonna roll your eyes and not think it's real because you can have some modicum of critical thought.
So we've done like nearly an hour on Vince Russo already.
Yeah, well, let's get to Vince Russo's ideas.
But before we continue into the show, You've Got to Be Kidding Me is brought to you this week by HelloFresh. With HelloFresh, you get fresh, pre-measured ingredients and mouth-watering seasonal recipes delivered right to your door. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. And that's why it's America's #1 meal kit. HelloFresh offers 50 menu and market items to choose from every week, from vegetarian meals and calorie-smart choices to extra special gourmet options. There's something for everyone to enjoy, with recipes designed and tested by professional chefs and nutritional experts to ensure deliciousness and simplicity. HelloFresh offers the flexibility you need to easily customize your order on the app within minutes. Easily change your delivery day, food preferences, and plan size, or skip a week whenever you need to. As somebody who's not particularly culinarily inclined, HelloFresh makes it a lot easier to approach cooking from a beginner's perspective without having to search through cookbooks to put together recipes, or without having to walk through the grocery store wondering like, hey, is that fresh? I don't know what fresh things look like. They cut all that friction out for you to make cooking easy and fast. So if you'd like to try HelloFresh, go to hellofresh.com/VOW14 and use the code VOW14 for up to 14 free meals, including free shipping. That's hellofresh.com/VOW14 for 14 free meals. Use the code VOW14. The other thing we're going to talk about, the other broad topic, Bruce.
Or as he's now known.
Yes, he's now known as Alan Funk.
The new Funk brother.
Yes, there's Terry, there's Dory, and there's Alan.
Well, Dory was on this last show as well,
Yeah,
so
Dory and-
I wonder if he gave permission.
Dory has endorsed this change by Alan Funk. So, Bruce has reunited with Lenny throughout this month. The Rainbow Express are back. Lenny returns. Mm-hmm. Then Bruce loses to Jorge Estrada after Bruce literally slips on a banana peel, which Lenny was eating seductively. While they're making their entrance.
Good booking.
Literally the first thing on any of these shows is an interview with Goldie and Bruce, where Bruce reintroduces Lenny, and Goldie is jealous of his boots.
I mean, they were tremendous boots.
And they go to that match between Jorge and Bruce, which is a dire, terrible match. It ends, as we mentioned, on a count-out when Bruce slips on a banana peel at ringside. Not, like, figuratively, not falls over on the mat. He slips on a literal banana peel. The funny thing is, they undermine their own rules, because, like, the prior week, Bob Armstrong comes out and says that titles will change hands on a DQ. And here we are, Bruce getting himself counted out, and title didn't change hands. Miss TNA did not go to Jorge.
We never confirmed that the Miss TNA title was on the line during this match.
So, no, we did. The whole idea was that, like, Priscilla would win it if Jorge won.
Oh, yeah! Priscilla, the uncrowned Miss TNA.
Robbed by the rules that they did not follow.
Priscilla, the linear Miss TNA champion.
I like the way last week when I mentioned the Bob Armstrong rule change, you were like, and how long are they going to follow that? And I'm like, you know what, for a surprisingly long time. Then hard cut to the next week in which they did not follow it.
Was it all titles or just the NWA title?
Well, is Miss TNA an NWA title?
It's never said the NWA Miss TNA title.
It's true, it doesn't count.
So maybe it's just NWA titles.
So we go to the next week, where Brian Lawler hears moaning in the locker room.
Oh no, what could it be? I immediately assumed Sean Waltman had returned.
I think that it was meant to be Sean Waltman, and they rewrote it for the sake of Waltman, because this was the show that Waltman no-showed, so they decided to turn Bruce in more senses than one.
Oh, this is so stupid.
So Brian finds April in the shower, where, like, if you watch the Impact Plus version of this, her boobs are blurred. But if you watch the original version, there is just, like, suds on her boobs. Her boobs are, like, fully exposed, but there is soap covering them.
Hell yeah!
Brian's like, hey, why were you making sex noises in the shower? And April's just like, I'm having a shower, leave me alone. And then Lawler leaves, and they cut to Bruce sticking his head out of the shower.
And he's like, who? What's going on out here?
He was presumably being pleasured by April in the shower, and we are... Pleasured indeed. Mike Tenay and Don West are aghast at the idea that Bruce, the gay man,
Bruce?
would be in the shower with April.
Bruce?
It's a shocking development. The worst part comes the next week. I don't want to talk about this one the next week.
Best part, man.
So April denies being out there.
Oh, not that part. I thought you meant the other part. No, the other part.
No, there's the.
All right, let's go.
So the following week, April denies she was in the shower with Bruce before Lenny accuses Bruce of being a fake gay.
Which is like, as we were watching this, we're like, Lenny, wouldn't you have noticed something?
They were waiting for marriage. You leave them alone.
Ah, fair enough. The funniest bit of this whole thing is if you watch our live reaction to this whole thing, in which it clicks that they are turning Bruce babyface and therefore have to make him straight.
The man cannot be gay and a babyface. That simply cannot compute. So they do, in fact, have to turn him in multiple senses so that the audience can cheer him now.
It's so fucking funny.
Because we did this is on NWA-TNA pay-per-view number 22, in which we did the watch-along, which is available now on our Patreon under $10 tier, as we did come to that realization that, yes, in fact, they are turning Bruce. They want people to like and cheer Bruce, so he cannot be gay. But they like this gay character so much.
Yeah, that's the whole other level to it, is that they loved the gay character so much that they weren't willing to get rid of it, so they brought back Lenny Lane just to keep doing Bruce's shtick.
So Lenny wants to be the real Miss TNA because Bruce isn't really gay. Which leads us... Somehow this gets worse. It just endlessly gets worse. To the worst part of this, in which BG James faces Lenny Lane.
Which is like... I think most of our sentences in this podcast will be... And the worst thing happens. BG James...
So before this match, BG cuts what is definitively the worst promo in TNA history. Where he refers to Lenny Lane as the F word. And he says he is going to have a gay bashing right now on pay-per-view.
Yeah.
That's... If I were watching TNA in 2002, it would be this promo where I stopped watching. It would be this is the point where I'd be like, I have never seen such open homophobia on a pro wrestling show as I did on this pay-per-view, NWA-TNA pay-per-view number 22. Where BG James drops a gay slur and then says he is going to commit a gay bashing live on pay-per-view. Like, in the entire history of wrestling, you need, like, there's veiled homophobia, there's veiled gay panic, and there is some probably outright homophobia, but it's never been part of the story in any pro wrestling I've watched, as it has been in this month of TNA, and it's just so disgusting and vile and stomach-churning and just lazy and cheap and entirely unnecessary, and I just hate it with every fibre of my being.
And BG James is the baby face. He's the good guy. The crowd cheers this.
Like, I'd stop watching. If this was 2002, I'd stop watching. This would be the point where I'd be like, this company is so desperate for attention that they're willing to pander to the lowest common denominator. So desperate and pathetic for people to give them any time of day that they're willing to be like, you know what? The people we want, the people who we really wanted to be supporters of TNA are the homophobes. And that's who we're going to go for here.
Good fun stuff, huh?
As babyface BG James beats heel Lenny Lane after calling him a derogatory slur and saying he's going to commit a gay bashing live on pay-per-view. And if you wanted more, after the match, April, instead of leaving with Bruce or leaving with Brian Lawler, she leaves hand in hand with Goldilocks.
What does that bloody mean, Mike Tenay says? Oh, bloody Goldie and her seem to be close all of a sudden.
And that's a tease that also goes absolutely nowhere. It's just like, lesbians? It's literally, this is like a teenager. It's like, what if they were lesbians? Isn't that funny?
Well, first of all, we have to say that we stand bisexual queen April.
Damn right, she can have whoever she wants.
She's hardcore, she'll take both.
Yeah. To question her taste in Brian Lawler, but you know what? Some people are into bad people, you can't help it.
Hey, Brian Lawler's redeemed himself.
I don't know, this isn't a great Brian Lawler month after a pretty good Brian Lawler month last one.
I don't know, man. I kind of love him just crying. The next week, him just crying on the ramp, and someone says something, he goes, "So shut up!" before quitting. Oh, do we want to talk about the Brian stuff here, or is that another broad topic?
No, I was going to spin off into it there now that we're done with all the gay stuff, because we are still on the April story.
Alright, yeah, April and Goldie, lesbian tease. Then we go next week where April's like, are you jealous? And then that's it.
Yeah, that's about it as we continue on this Rainbow Express story. And like, my favorite part of this month actually is when the Rainbow Express have a match earlier in the month. They're wrestling the Maximos, I believe. Yep.
Yeah, they're a great tag team. They're a super smooth, fluid tag team.
My favorite part is Don West on commentary, who's like, you know what? I used to really hate when they did the gay stuff. But that's them, and I accept it, and I quite enjoy it now. Like,
yeah,
oh, Don. Don is learning and growing on this show in front of us, while the show descends into madness in front of him.
Don is an ally.
Don is an ally. So Brian Lawler...
Yeah. The GOAT. Surefire pick for most improved.
So now that we've covered the gay stuff, we have to go all the way back to Lawler against Six-Pac on NWA-TNA pay-per-view number 20.
Yeah, that story. Let's wrap that up quick.
So Lawler beats or loses to Six-Pac, then Six-Pac makes out with April, Lawler has a meltdown, and then fakes a heart attack. So instead of letting April leave with Six-Pac, Lawler clutches his chest, desperately gasps for air,
his heart was broken.
Falls to the mat.
Quite literally.
And fakes a heart attack until April has pity on him and returns to his side.
Yeah. It's a healthy relationship.
As the month goes on, that relationship deteriorates until at the very end of the month on the November 27th show, Brian Lawler quits to a giant babyface pop.
In a great segment.
It's a good performance, and then he goes backstage and he is consoled by Priscilla.
Priscilla, as you know, we mentioned before.
Yes, Priscilla, former girlfriend of one Jerry the King Lawler.
Oh, so you know, they're just she's consoling him because you know they were in some way family, right? That's the story here.
Yes, consoling via Brian Lawler putting his hand on her ass.
Not I hesitant to say on, and more appropriate terminology would be in, because my man was going hard on that.
Listen, he's jealous of his dad, I guess. I don't know.
That's the thing, is like, those two definitely had some weird spiteful interactions after this. It's so weird. It's skin crawling, because even when I was watching it, I was like, no.
They can't leave Brian Lawler without being creepy with a woman.
But honestly, like, a way more age-appropriate relationship.
Whether gaslighting them into still loving him via fake heart attacks, or getting with his dad's ex. That's Brian Lawler's narrative.
Hopeless romantic, obviously.
He just can't go without love.
Yeah.
Good lord, what? Oh, God.
I would pay serious money to be the fly on the wall as Jerry Lawler watches that segment.
Do you think he cares? Do you think he's like, what the hell? Because they did have the line about him picking up girls in a school with candy like 2 months ago.
Yeah.
So like this show is just patently anti-Jerry Lawler for some reason.
Oh, for a lot of reasons.
Well, that's true too.
But just the idea of him just sitting down, let's see what Brian's been up to, you know, he's in this company, click it on, he just sees his son fingering his ex live on pay-per-view.
Yep.
That's what you get for fucking getting worked by Andy Kaufman.
I love how many different directions this Lawler and Bruce story goes in.
They should all just unite at the end and get past their differences.
Just have one giant orgy.
Yeah. But a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
Be open with each other.
It's not built on heart attacks.
Don't bottle it up.
That leads to heart attacks.
Yeah. Yes.
It does.
Quite literally.
Alright, so we'll go to some actual wrestling, I suppose.
Yeah, well, I don't talk about that.
We've done like 3/4 on Vince Russo and then a quarter on Brian Lawler, and just the most vile and horrible homophobia you'll ever see in your life. Let's move on to good tag team wrestling.
Yeah, the best tag team wrestling we've seen.
So we saw the kickstart of the AMW and New Church feud at the end of last month, where they did that killer angle where the New Church laid out AMW as their official return and drove them through some tables and dropped them off stages, and the New Church were like the coolest people on earth. So we come immediately back with AMW doing the best promo of their career on the NWA-TNA pay-per-view number 20, where they're just fired up. They're like, I'm not a cowboy anymore.
He throws the hat down.
He does. He's just like, I am abandoning the shtick, I'm abandoning the gimmick because you made this personal, and I'm going to kick your ass. And it's so so good. It's like, that's pro wrestling. Why are you getting away from this? They got their ass kicked, and now they want revenge in a pro wrestling match that I want to see.
My favorite line, besides obviously for the first time hearing "Sorry About Your Damn Luck," which was like literally like I was like, "Ooh, he said it." The best line for me here is like James Storm. He's sitting there. He's like, "I'm one of the baddest, but son of a bitches," and I was like, "Oh shit, James Storm."
He's abandoned the Buckaroos. He's abandoned the pew pew guns. He just wants to kick some ass. And for some reason, at this point, the crowd turns on James Storm.
But it's you should have turned on him before.
It's very bizarre that he has abandoned the cowboy shtick, and now during all of these AMW against New Church matches, the crowd are chanting "Kill the cowboy."
I think like they were ready to turn on him, and then they didn't realize that he stopped doing it, and they're like, "Oh fuck! Well, we've committed. We bought all the signs. We have to do it now."
He's being like the biggest, coolest, fired up babyface on the show alongside Chris Harris, and now they have to boo him.
Pissing blood everywhere, all of them.
Yeah, they have a series of matches on these shows. They wrestle basically 3 times in a row. First, a DQ in which New Church were too violent on AMW. Then New Church defeated AMW to win the tag titles, and I think the best of the 3 matches. Mm-hmm. And then they did the return match where AMW were too violent. They did the NXT where AMW looked at their hands and like, why are we so violent? We're hurting all these New Church guys. But yeah, like,
Buckaroo.
For the entire history of TNA so far, the tag team division has been an afterthought. It has been like a vehicle for a Jerry Lynn and AJ Styles feud. It has been a vehicle for their worst impulses with the likes of the Dupps and the likes of the Johnsons. Like, they have not really focused on the tag division. They have not really had a real tag division. And now they found 2 teams, which are perfect polar opposites. You have the violent New Church and you have the plucky, fiery AMW. And they're the perfect like complements of each other to just have these killer tag matches and really invigorate the tag division and really, like, for the first time, lend some real credibility to these tag titles.
100%. And also, like, legitimately, it's nice to have another division to be excited about on these shows, because before this, it's really like, alright, just get to the X Division matches to actually show me some stuff. But now we actually have a pretty hot tag feud to deal with. And, AMW turning into the tag team that Garrett says they are. So I'm excited to see more of it.
It's really fun to see, though. It's nice to see that they don't come out fully formed, because I like seeing that development, of the course of the 6 individual months we've been covering so far, that they've developed from these nobodies, these kind of like blank slate guys who don't really have a personality, who they don't really know what to do with.
Excuse me, his personality was cowboy.
Yes, but no one wanted that. Especially not his tag team partner.
Kill the cowboy.
So yeah, over the course of these months, we see them develop from this just like blank slate nothing tag team into like the best babyface tag team in the world.
I mean, 2002, I don't fucking know.
They're just so good together. There's fire. There's everything you want in tag team wrestling. They're the throwback to the kind of tag team wrestling people loved without, as I mentioned before, being pretentious about it.
They kind of remind me of, and this is honestly one of the highest compliments I can give to a tag team. They remind me a lot of the Briscoes. Like, in that they come across very genuine. They come across as, they had very intense. They have that old school flavor, but with that new school style elements to it. It's just good stuff.
And there's so much blood.
So much blood.
Slash bleeds so much on all of these shows.
Yeah, it's great.
Slash is just like, oh yeah, blade. It's like, no one even touched you. It's like, yeah, don't worry about it.
It's still open from the week before, don't worry about it.
He just bleeds buckets on all of the... And it really helps the feud, and it helps the New Church as well as these demonic cult figures who are just bleeding every week. But yeah, a lot of blood in these matches between AMW and the New Church.
Of course, we've got a new Churchian.
Oh, indeed. First of all, we had Malice back, who did a couple squashes, one of which was a disaster. Because he squashed Chaos on the NWA-TNA pay-per-view number 21, and then he squashed Corey Williams on 22, and he just completely fell off the top rope when he tried to do his King Kong knee drop.
And he was so mad.
He was furious. He was embarrassed. Apparently he threw a bit of a fit backstage as well, and they had to calm him down because...
No, it was a work, don't worry about it.
He probably was, to be fair. So yeah, Malice is back and not looking quite so good. But yeah, Belladonna is the other introduction to the New Church, their female associate.
Just a bunch of derelicts.
She's a local Nashville or Tennessee wrestler who caught their eye. She did, I think it was a dark match with ODB. And then they...
Is this Athena?
This isn't Athena, no.
Who the fuck is Athena? The Athena signs are getting more and more prevalent, and I just want to know who was Athena.
It really felt like it peaked on the show we watched as well, on that number 22 on November 20th. There was Athena signs everywhere on that show.
The most hilarious part was Jeff Jarrett finally winning the NWA title, blood pouring from his face, standing up, and as he stands up, holding the title high, Athena right behind him, all capitals.
They wanted Athena to win the belt, not Jeff Jarrett.
Well, if I knew who the fuck it was, maybe I'd agree. I'm purposely staying away from it too, because if I don't even know if Athena fucking shows up. If it happens, I want it to be the biggest fucking reaction I've ever seen in my life. If these motherfuckers don't have a CM Punk returning-esque pop for Athena, I'll go back in time to 2002 and punch them all.
It'll be hot at the asylum if they're not giving Athena all that love after getting her single-handedly booked.
So far, the asylum fucking stinks. I don't have any reverence? Sure. I don't have any good reverence, is what I was looking for. I don't have any reverence for the fucking asylum. I don't like it at all. I don't like the people there. I don't care for it.
It doesn't look visually pleasing. It's not a particularly hot venue. It's just the home.
And the fans are dickheads.
Yeah.
Just a bad place.
It is funny, we watched Chris Rock's Head of State for the Patreon, which you can hear our review of now on the Patreon if you'd like, at patreon.com/kiddingme. But it's funny to see how much better the asylum looked in that movie.
And because they moved everyone to one side.
It's like, oh, so that's what this building could look like if it was shot with some amount of money.
The colours popped so heavy. It was so interesting.
It's like, oh yeah, this building actually looks pleasant to look at instead of like this drab kind of grey affair. Other stuff in the tag division this month, we had a little tag team tournament that was won by the Harris Bros, which they still haven't gotten their shot, so I don't know what they're waiting for there, but the Harris Bros are number one contenders, I guess.
Cool.
Because they did that tournament. Like, Maximos defeated the Rainbow Express, Harris Bros defeated the Hot Shots, and then Harris Bros defeated the Maximos. And then the last show of the month, BG James and Kurt Hennig got a tag title shot.
So what I'm hearing is you're really advocating for the Harris brothers here. Now, why would you be such a supporter of the Harris brothers?
This entire podcast is just going to become me grumbling at Vince Russo and me grumbling at you calling me a Nazi.
Whoa, no one said Nazi. You hear it here first.
So the Harris Bros are waiting in the wings, I guess, for a tag title shot. We did have that match between Hennig and James against the New Church. Kind of a boring match, again, in line with a lot of the Hennig and James matches. BG is terrible on these shows. I hate seeing
I thought Hennig was pretty good in this, though.
Yeah, because at least he didn't have to sell, mostly.
He hit his plex. Fun times. Okay, before we get off of the tag stuff, I mean, I assume we're done with the tag stuff now.
Well, you don't want to talk about the Briscoes?
Oh, yeah, we'll talk about the Briscoes, that's sure. I mean, the problem with the Briscoes is that, like, although I love seeing them here, I have no investment in them because I know they don't stay for any relative time, you know?
And they're doing pretty much nothing. Like, they're facing Divine Storm, who actually had a very good first impression when they wrestled Easy Money and Sonny Siaki the week before.
Like, I think, like, it was a really fun opening, 2002 indie match.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I would be a lot more excited about the Briscoes if they actually stuck around.
And the highlight of both the Divine Storm against Easy Money and Sonny Siaki match and the Divine Storm against Briscoes match was Trinity.
Yeah, of course. Trinity just killing herself.
It's nice to have a woman on these shows who's not freaking trying to sleep with somebody and she's just kicking ass.
Oh, just you wait. I have zero faith in that staying that way.
You think Trinity's suddenly trying to get with Brian Lawler next week?
Oh, fucking next week she'll be like banging Vince Russo or something. Like, I have no faith in the treatment of women on this show.
Yeah, Trinity's hitting springboard moonsaults. She's hitting the Hurricane Ranas. She's basically Lita if Lita didn't die whenever she did every single move she tried. Lita does have more charisma, though.
I was gonna say, that's kind of adds to the aura of Lita, though, doesn't it? It's the Phoenix effect.
But Phoenix only dies like 1 out of like 100 times, whereas Lita dies like 99 out of 100 times.
Which is why it rules?
Lita and Trinity should merge into the perfect wrestler.
Linity,
indeed. The wrestler who can do the cool shit, but also has cool charisma.
Or Trita.
Trita? Yeah, you know what? Let's go for it.
Yeah. That's their Gogeta-esque Dragon Ball fusion.
So now that we have covered the rest of the tag stuff, what did you want to move on to?
There was some, like, charity thing going on.
Oh, yeah, they devoted the entirety of the gate receipts of... I took note of which of the shows it was.
It was the last one.
No, I believe it was 21, and it was more of them, actually. It was a bunch of them. They did a bunch of them in a row. But the Tennessee Disaster Relief Fund, which is the second month in a row, because they're doing the auction as well, which there are some promo videos for.
Yeah, the auction that I was referring to specifically.
Where there's a bunch of stuff up for grabs, like managing people or sitting on announcers or special guest ring bell. That goes to the stuff we mentioned last month, which is, I think, the DC Sniper Fund. I think there was an autism charity as well. But yeah, they also donated the gate receipts of the November 13th, and I think as well the November 20th pay-per-view was to the Tennessee Disaster Relief Fund. So it is nice to see TNA giving back to the community, helping out, not just being a selfish wrestling company.
It's all cool, very charity. But the more important thing is that there is one pre-tape in which Hennig says, "Oh yeah, blah, blah, I've never lost at golf," which is a fun little reference, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, and if someone can beat me and we get over $5,000 on the thing, I'll put my own $5,000 in. So yeah, that's nice. But more important than that, BG James utters the phrase, "I am a gamer."
Is BG James the original gamer?
He is the original gamer moment.
Yeah, he did have a heated gamer moment on these shows, so it's all coming full circle.
So, yeah, I'm gonna be trimming that part of that out, and I will be posting it pretty much 24/7. I think he says the words, "I'm a hardcore gamer," too.
Oh yeah, he's not into those casual games. He's not playing Wii Sports. He wants to play God of War.
God, I can't wait to spend $10,000 at the NWA-TNA auction to go play games with BG James where he calls me slurs the whole time.
Alright, this is November 2002. What games would you play with BG James?
Well, he said it was arcade, so whatever's in the arcade at the time. Playing some Street Fighter? I don't know. Let's go.
Well, there's all kinds. You could play some Pac-Man.
Ooh. Tetris.
Yeah, Tetris.
One of the Time Forces.
Notable games released in 2002 included Kingdom Hearts.
It's not at the arcade.
Oh, you could play Mario Sunshine with them and you could torture each other.
It's not in the arcade, man.
The true revenge on BG for dropping the F word on this live pay-per-view would be forcing him to play Super Mario Sunshine.
No, because he just call me that over and over again while we play.
You would definitely refer to Mario as some kind of derogatory comment.
Please, BG James, I just want to play video games. Stop calling me slurs.
There was a Mike Tenay and Don West promo for those silent auctions, which was very good. They were doing a bit where Don went into the hard sell and Mike was like, "Don, save the hard sells for later." And I was like, "Oh, the wholesome bit."
He's like, we already have 2,300. And he's like, 2,400, 2,500. It's great.
Oh, bless these two. Bless them with all my heart.
Bless this mess.
Let's move on to the X Division, I suppose, in which, again, you can't get away from it, Liam. 2 AJ Styles and Jerry Lynn matches.
Okay, no more. I'm putting a hard pan on this. No more AJ Styles and Jerry Lynn matches. But the thing that scares me is the blow-off, quotation marks, I don't know, involve cheating. So that makes me think there's going to be another AJ Styles Jerry Lynn match.
So yeah, on pay-per-view number 20, Lynn defeated Styles to win the X Division title, which they're really hot potatoing that X Division title around, by the way.
Yeah, but I guess that's kind of the point. It's the belt that's you're gonna get a title change every now and again.
Do they have to do so many of them, though?
I guess the idea is, like, tune in every week because you don't know if the X title will change.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Listen, I'm not saying it's good, but I'm saying that there is probably method to the madness.
This is the 6th title change since the beginning of this company.
I don't mind that. He got a title change. Got a title run, rather.
Jerry Lynn is the 2nd person to hold the belt twice already.
After...
AJ.
Yes, of course.
So yeah, they had the first match. Both matches were very good. I still think the best match they've had is like the final portion of the first X Division title match. I don't think they've lived up to that match since. They still had 2 very good title matches this month.
Yeah, I enjoyed both of these. I actually really liked the blow-off, quotation marks, until the end.
Yeah, they worked a very different intensity to it, didn't they?
Which was, like, because they have to, because they've run this match fucking 25 times on 24 shows.
There was this great moment where AJ tried to run off the steps to do a Rana, and Lynn just hurled him into the steel rail without any stopping. It wasn't like he caught him and he waited a moment and he hit him on the rail. It's like AJ jumped off the steps, tried to Rana, and Lynn just carried the momentum through to the rail. It rocked.
And it was interesting that, on the blow-off quotation marks, they did like a recap of each guy, and in that recap they chose to put in the Jerry Lynn being a mean vet guy. So that played into the the more aggressive tone of the match, I guess.
Throughout the month, we had the debut of Crimson Dragon.
Fuck off. Well, what a glow up in 1 week, huh?
Yeah, because he went from... It was a Crimson Dragon against Jorge Estrada against AJ Styles match on NWA-TNA pay-per-view number 22.
It was actually a pretty... Actually, no, it was a bad match. I remember I hated it. Don't worry about it. I'll take it all back.
You detested that match with every fibre of your being. But Crimson Dragon looked like he's like the prototype version of Amazing Red. It's just like, this was what Red should look like if Red looked like the worst, horrible amateur indie wrestler you've ever seen in your life.
He looked like when you make a creative wrestler, but you don't have a lot of time and you just want to fuck around with moves. So you have you spend 5 minutes on it.
If you remember the TNA game, that story mode was filled with matches against a bunch of creator wrestlers while you were coming up in Mexico.
Oh, that was straight up a 2K19 My Career guy that you fight at the start.
Yeah.
And on the indies.
It's just this is the indie wrestler in this game that they haven't bothered putting time into creating a decent creative wrestler model for.
But I like that they clearly understood, because this is a TNA gimmick, right? This guy didn't do this outside of TNA.
He barely did it in TNA.
Yeah, they looked like... He's like, oh, he looks like shit, so they got him some good gear for the next show.
It's actually funny, in the Wrestling Observer, Dave Meltzer always mentions that, because it's Chris Hamrick who plays the Crimson Dragon, not to unmask somebody again, but... Dave is mentioning, I was like, oh, going all the way back to the 80s, this guy has always been a good worker who can't get a break because of how he looks, so this was their solution. Put a mask on him.
Yeah. And to be fair, the second go of the look was actually pretty good.
He basically looked like a mini Super Dragon.
Yeah, he looked like Super Dragon meets Ultimo Dragon.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting. It's kind of cool.
It's funny that I'd imagine the first week they're like, hey, you're booked. We want you to do this Crimson Dragon character. Get some gear together. And he's like, okay. And this is what he could desperately throw together. And then the next week he comes back. He's like, all right, I'm Crimson Dragon. I'm really going to invest in this character. I'm going to get myself some nice gear. I'm going to really commit to it. And he comes back. He loses to Siaki, but he has this cool gear. It's a perfectly fine little match. And then Crimson Dragon never wrestles in TNA again.
I would buy the Crimson Dragon gear if someone is selling it. The second version, of course.
On the topic of gear, because that Crimson Dragon, by the way, that first match was awful. He was so bad in that first match with Styles and Jorge, but he was perfectly fine in the second one, so...
Yeah. He did some cool shit, but it was just all sloppy and, a little dangerous.
But on the topic of gear, one of the premier gear makers in the history of wrestling, Easy Money, showed up on these shows.
Yes. And ruled the entire time?
Yeah.
Easy Money's fucking sick.
So, yeah, Easy Money made his debut. He wrestled Tony Mamaluke. He wrestled in that tag match with Sonny Siaki against Divine Storm. He wrestled Crimson Dragon. And he had a squash against Alex Winters.
Actually, I liked Alex Winters, too.
Siaki was the one that wrestled Dragon. Easy Money wrestled Alex Winters, as I'm getting my X Division squashes mixed up.
I gotta say, I enjoyed the Alex Winters performance, too.
Yeah, Easy Money, really good in these shows, hitting buckshot lariats and cool power moves. He's a power junior, and again, there's nothing better in wrestling. You can't beat a power junior.
Or as Tanae was calling them before, a hybrid athlete that can go between the heavyweights and the X Division.
Oh, he didn't use the word hybrid, he used a different word.
What was the different word?
He said tweener.
Tweener, yeah, that's what it was.
He was talking specifically about Siaki. It's like, Siaki is almost one of those tweeners, Mike Tenay said, referring to the well-known wrestling expression of the person who definitely moves between the X Division and the heavyweight division.
Yeah. I thought that was a fun little nod. I wonder if it was a purposeful thing.
Where he's trying to, claim back the meaning of tweener.
Yeah. I wonder if, that was ever, something they were seriously considering making, part of the TNA vernacular. We have these guys that go in between the heavyweight stuff and the X Division, you know?
Because I'd imagine they were looking at AJ Styles at the moment in particular as a guy who's this guy is going to win the heavyweight title at some stage. He definitely is. So maybe we have to establish this idea that these people are on the level of the which is, to be fair, a thing they were doing with, the Jerry Lynn and Ron Killing stuff. Jerry Lynn pinned the NWA champion.
Well, Siaki has been doing it too, but he also gets beat up a lot, though. Was Kid Cash not on this fucking...
He did, yeah, he was. He was in the Elimination Tables match, which he won.
Which was insane.
As mad as an Elimination Tables match between Kid Cash, Jose Joel Maximo, Ace Steel, and Tony Mamaluke sounds. And then he also had the triple threat with Styles and Lynn.
Yeah, it was a fun little match.
Which, honestly, I agree, it was a fun little match. Veered on disappointing, though.
Also, I was just disappointed that fucking Lynn snuck his fucking way in there. I just wanted a cool AJ Styles Kid Cash match.
Styles was the one that snuck his way in there.
Oh, sorry, other way around. Yeah, I wanted the singles match with Kid Cash, and I remember I was really amped for it too. I was like, oh, fuck yeah, an X Division title match that has Kid Cash in it? Yeah, and Styles was like, doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. I was like, no. Damn you, Mortimer Plumtree, and your great lawyering skills.
Yeah, he's a good manager. He's representing his client
you
well.
Mr. Nerd.
Oh yeah, we have to talk about it. We now that we're in the X division. So on the start of the NWA-TNA pay-per-view number 22, November 13th, AJ Styles comes out and he cuts a promo and he's talking about how he should be put in the X division match. It's very weird actually to see these shows open with a promo. It's like very you feel again the Vince Russo influence seeping in with them opening with a guy coming to the ring and cutting a promo. AJ's in the ring cutting his promo. He calls Mike TNA for some reason Sugar Tit TNA.
Hell yeah.
And then Jerry Lynn comes out, interrupts them, and he's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Hold your horses there, Mr. Cocks his head to the side, pauses for a moment. Nerd, is it?
That's right.
And yeah, Mike Tenay's like, that's right. And Don's like, yeah!
Honestly, like, the Mr. Nerd line is obviously tremendous. One of the best things I've ever seen in my life. But the thing that really sells that clip to me is Mike Tenay's emphatic, that's right. He's like, fuck yeah, that is Mr. Nerd.
You got him.
Is Mr. Nerd.
He has been owned.
That's right.
And the pride and satisfaction on Jerry Lynn's face when he says Mr. Nerd, it's so good. I love it so much. It's such a lame line, and Jerry Lynn makes it the best line in the history of the world.
Shout out to Jerry Lynn for responding to that tweet too.
Yeah, Jerry Lynn responding to us on Twitter with a nerd gif.
He is the fourth... Wait, no, the fourth or the fifth? He's either the fourth or the fifth person followed on the account now.
Yeah, Jerry Lynn deserves it for his sick Mr. Nerd line, which is officially added to the intro of the episode.
This is our Hall of Fame.
Yeah, this is how we immortalize people in TNA canon.
Oh, you want to talk about Mike Tenay's best call?
Yeah, we didn't even mention the Mike Tenay call where Vince Russo unmasks himself. Don West drops a "You've got to be kidding me," because of course he does. And then Mike Tenay delivers the line, "Oh shit, it's Vince Russo," with like the fury and anger of everybody watching, and I believe everybody in the back.
Did Tenay know?
Well, he's not listed among the people that did know.
So that could have been a very real... Oh shit, it's Vince Russo.
A very personal, organic reaction from Mike Tenay to seeing Vince Russo on the television show that he has to work and call for the rest of his life.
Hilarious.
It's such a good delivery. It's such a good... It's the perfect response. You know, it's the time is just like, oh, could it be? You know, that kind of stuff. The inorganic, I'm feigning excitement. Where Mike Tenay is just like, oh shit, it's Vince Russo.
That may be the cleanest and clearest "You've got to be kidding me" too. So that might just be the "You've got to be kidding me" that we end up using. Also, thanks to Don West for giving us the soundbite of our podcast name. It's really helpful.
He is iconic. He's an iconic man. Well, that's the reason it was named. It's named after the call.
That's what I'm saying, though. It's like we have infinite choices of clips to use if we ever need an audio version of our name being spoken.
I mean, yeah, I'm pretty sure we're already up to like 7 "You've got to be kidding me's" through TNA history.
Once it's all done, we'll compile the "You've got to be kidding me's" into one giant video.
You see, the "You've got to be kidding me" name is a double entendre, Liam. It is both Don West's catchphrase on commentary and also what you say whenever you see something like Bruce being turned from gay to straight.
You've got to be kidding me.
Damn right.
You did the Mike Tenay damn right. Hell yeah.
X-Division stuff, that's about it for the month, I think.
Yeah, Key's gone. Red's got a bit more of a push throughout this time. They clearly like Red.
Yeah, they do the Red and Lynn title match, and there's a note in PW Torch.
Oh, banger.
The Jarretts are
banger.
The Jarretts are very high on Amazing Red and feel that he could be their version of Rey Mysterio. So they see what literally everybody on Earth sees.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very clear that like, oh, they think Red's a guy, they're investing in Red, because before that match they do a little sit down interview where Red is like the most timid,
he's so
nervous. Just he's a kid being interviewed there on stage, and Mike Tenay does his darndest to kind of make him comfortable and keep him moving, you know, whenever he gets stuck. But it's like, oh, he's so nervous. He's so like still stuck in his shell at that stage.
As you mentioned during the watch along, Don West, absolutely professional.
Yeah, Don's like, oh, you know, this guy, he's so timid, he's so nervous, you don't really think that this guy could be so explosive and dynamic in the ring, and then you see him and he wins your hearts and minds. And it's like, that's commentary. Like, so much of commentary is like, oh, he didn't get all of that, which I detest now, that he didn't get all of that. It's like, you're not supposed to make excuses for them, you're supposed to put them over.
You can say something along those lines without burying it, you know?
Well, my favourite one is always, and it's happened like 4 times in WWE recently, where it's like, he didn't get all of that, oh, it's the finish.
Yeah, I hate that. Like that one, because that's the risk you play too.
But yeah, Don's great. Mike and Don, I think this is really the month where they hit their stride, where they're both like great commentators, but they have the chemistry between each other. But then they're also like their own unique individual characters, even taking out the Russo stuff. Like Mike Tenay's doing his interviews, Don West is kind of owning his earnestness, and it's a lot of fun. I enjoy that team so much. They're so good together.
The best.
They are truly among the best. All right, now we've covered all the X Division stuff. We shall go show by show. Is there anything we didn't cover from pay-per-view number 20, November 20th, TNA Asylum, 800 there, papered?
No, I mean the Jarrett Hennig blow-off.
Yeah, it's kind of disappointing that they still haven't had their proper full match together, isn't it?
Well, it's because it's the thing that you wanted really the most when those two came in. It was like, okay, let's get the Hennig Jarrett shit out of the way.
But yeah, they're just shooting angles instead. All their matches are angles.
Probably because neither wanted to lose.
Another great Don call during the AMW against New Church match. He's just like, get these demons out of the ring.
They are demons. No, they're not. They're not. We're not giving them that much credit. They're not spooky demons. They're just derelicts.
Yeah, DK are spooky demons. Oh God, the Brian Lawler thing. When Brian Lawler had a match on the show against Six Pac, and there's a moment where he's standing on the turnbuckle calling toward April, and he shouts at her, "Come here, you cunt!" I'm like, Brian.
Brian. No wonder she doesn't like you.
It's like, dude, cool your jets. Like, take it back a little.
Calm down on the C word, man.
Oh, while Jarrett and Hennig were brawling in the crowd, they brawled past this fan who looked just like Steve Austin.
I didn't see this.
I posted the still of it on I think it was my Twitter. I posted it too. But yeah, he was like, he bald with that kind of like mustache thing going on. He t-shirt, jean shorts. It's like, oh, he's just casual Steve Austin. He was even wearing a Steve Austin shirt. I'm pretty sure he's cosplaying as Austin.
Did he have the gold chain on?
I think he might have.
Holy shit. That's a look, though, by the way. I'm stealing that shit.
Oh, you're going for the 2002 Steve Austin? That's your preferred look?
Yeah. Get a long sleeve shorts, gold chain on. That's what I'm going with now.
I did quite enjoy...
Cap.
You and your young people words.
Cap? I meant like a
Oh, hat. A literal cap, right.
Yeah. I wasn't saying that I was lying.
There was a nice moment in the main event during Styles and Lethal where Mike Tenay was like, yeah, we want a replay. Can we get the replay? There was like some graphics on the screen as they tried to pull up the replay, and then it's like, no, I'm afraid we cannot pull up the replay.
It was too high action.
Legitimately, before that, Mike Tenay was like, the X Division, it's so fast-paced, we can't even have time to go to replays. Once we go to replays, something happens. Which it was in the Styles-Lynn Cash match, there was a moment where Cash did this cool dive.
It was like a pin attempt or something, wasn't it?
No, Cash did this cool dive, and then they go to the replay of Cash's dive, and on the other screen, because it's like the picture-in-picture replay, you see AJ do a springboard shooting star to the floor.
It's just stupid shit. It rules.
They cannot keep up with all of this stuff. Oh, Don West suggesting the Maximals are like Venus and Serena Williams. I quite enjoyed. Where it was like, this was during the Elimination Tables match, where it's just like Venus and Serena Williams, they want to eliminate everybody and get it down to themselves where they don't care who wins then.
Should we quickly just go through all the matches that happened?
I think we covered most of them already.
It's like Jorge defeats Bruce, BJ defeats Siaki, Six Pack defeats Lawler, AMW defeat the New Church. Blah, 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 blah.
You've already gotten bored running down the match.
Yeah, I was like, oh god, just got a cage match.
See, this is the reason that I want to shift toward the broad topics thing, because it's just like, do you have anything interesting to say about BG against Siaki? No,
but we should let it be known that it happened.
Yeah, well, dude, that's the reason the show notes are there. You can look at results of these shows.
Ah, all right. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, fuck these guys. Go to the show notes.
Liam was like, you could give us your $1 to look at the show notes on Patreon.
I forgot about that. Go pay the $1 if you want to know what happened. There's all kind of scoops and stuff that we don't even get to the time to talk about. There's notes in here that we didn't even bring up.
This is the true hustle to sell you on the $1 show notes.
Yeah, and it's well written, has links.
I did reassemble the show notes this week because they were kind of chaotic in past weeks, so I've structured them a little better. This
is really just Garrett's play. He's eventually just going to release all of these notes as the TNA book that he's always talked about.
Yeah, not even context. It's just literally just these notes. Oh, there was quotes about the X Division matches before Styles and Lynn, where Alex Marvez of current AEW fame
and Dave Meltzer of current AEW fame.
Oh, very good. See what you did there.
Thank you.
Alex Marvez of Scripps Howard News Service and Fort Lauderdale Sun Sentinel says, Styles versus Lynn gets my vote for Wrestling's Feud of the Year. Alex Marvez, a big TNA fan. Dave Meltzer's quote, Styles versus Lynn has consistently delivered some of the most outstanding wrestling of the year. They've co-opted the media, Liam. They've done what AEW have done beforehand.
By God.
They've won them over with their revolutionary idea of
Money.
good pro wrestling.
Oh. Sean Ross Sapp would be tweeting about how Sonny Siaki's got all this bright future. Jarrett's a great champion. He's nothing like Triple H.
The WWE toxic fan talking point, comparing everything Jarrett does to Triple H. Sean would have been... What age is Sean? Sean's in like 30s, isn't he? So he would have been probably teens during this era. So
yeah, he could have been posting.
He would have been posting through all of these TNA shows. NWA-TNA Baby number 21. Any notes? Any fun stuff on that one? Jimmy Yang is now no longer an Elvis.
He's an Old Japan. That's what he is.
He does look... He looks more like his Young Dragons look, doesn't he? With the leather pants, the black leather pants.
And the straight up Old Japan bomber jacket.
Yeah, there's so many crowd brawls on this show as well. I think it's probably going to get worse, but there are so many crowd brawls. Or a weird moment at the end of the show. For some reason, they introduced Jeremy Borash at the announce desk at the very end of the show. After the Lynn's Cash and Styles match, they cut to the announce desk where was Mike Don and JB there for a little bit.
I don't remember this.
You don't remember JB? I think he's talked about how how good the match we just saw was, and before Don did the rundown of what we're going to see next week, they had JB there.
I don't remember this. JB obviously playing the role of the fan.
Yeah, so the fan can know what's happening, which is, to be honest, quite hard to understand on the show sometimes, so maybe that's a good idea.
Maybe McMahon's right. Maybe they do need the announcers to just be fans and explain everything. Because on these shows, I don't have any clue what's going on.
We also had the NWA-TNA pay-per-view number 22. See, this is the reason Broad Topics works. We already covered everything. It's an efficient format. This is the show we did the watch-along for, so if you'd like to hear like 2 whole hours of us talking about NWA-TNA pay-per-view number 22, you can head to patreon.com/kiddingme to listen to that. Actually, there is an interesting quote in Jerry's book about the gay stuff. Well, interesting might not be the right word, but
there is a quote.
So Jeff Jarrett was like, "Hey Jerry, you should email talent about stuff just so that they know what's happening and they have some concerns." And one of the concerns was the quote unquote gay content. So the quote in Jerry's book: Jeff advised that most of you feel that we have too much quote unquote gay content in the shows. I agree. My explanation for the past segments is simple. When writing a segment or match using a gay tag team required gay content by its very nature. Some gay people thought the segments were funny. I'd like to know who. Some gay people thought the segments were disgusting. Much more likely. My guess is that the opinions were equally split among straight people. Like, that's him addressing this is the week of the BG James gay slur, the week after, between those two pay-per-views. And we did mention that, like, the gay stuff was somewhat more tastefully executed in recent months, and then they went to the very dirt worse, to the extent that he had to address it. And they did actually apologize for the gay slur BG threw out, saying it wasn't scripted.
BG James, man, just...
But, like, even if it wasn't scripted, the intent of that segment was like, oh, look at the gay bad guy, BG's gonna beat him up. So even if he didn't drop the slur, the intent of that segment is he's beating up the gay guy.
Yeah.
Oh, dearie me. Dearie me. That brings us to NWA-TNA pay-per-view number 23, which is all the Russo stuff, all the this show sucks stuff.
That's us reviewing it, not not Russo.
I did enjoy, there was a sign in the crowd at one stage that Vince owns entertainment, but Jarrett owns wrestling. And it's like, oh, you poor soul, what a bad show to bring this sign to.
It's not how you spell Khan.
The show where Vince Russo does this show stinks, I need to bring back sports entertainment show is the show where you bring the Jarrett's own wrestling sign.
Well, to be fair, but, that's the whole point, isn't it? That's the heat. The problem is like, the whole Russo character is, like, meant to be the bad guy, but he actually thinks he's right. So,
but you know what the actual problem is, though? That the idea here is that TNA is meant to be this pure sports wrestling show.
I mean, it was for a couple of months.
But even when it was, there was bits of it that very much wasn't.
Yeah, but it's like it was little sprinkles of it. It exists. I wouldn't blame the fan for bringing this sign at, like, this point. If he brought it the next week after, I'd be like, come on, man.
But my big point is that, like, TNA, Vince Russo's version of TNA in this promo is this horrible sports-based traditional wrestling product, and he's gonna bring the entertainment. That's what this show needs. That's what wrestling needs. It needs the entertainment. And, like, You've had the Dupps. You've had the frickin' Johnsons. You've had all of the Bruce
like
stuff.
3 months ago.
You've had all of the Bruce stuff this month.
The Bruce and... Because I would argue that the only things recently that have been going on is the Brian Lawler and the Bruce stuff.
Which has been all over these shows.
Yeah, but it's one thing. Really. It culminates in one thing.
Bruce has officially given up Miss TNA. He's going by Alan Funk now. He's given it to April, apparently. We'll see how that plays out.
Probably won't.
I did quite enjoy... There was a video package before Styles and Lynn on the final show of the month, where they had this photo effect for Styles. Where they had this single image of Styles, and you know the way when they drop the photos on top, it's usually like, oh, it's a different image every time. Not in TNA, not for TNA video editing in 2002, where instead it was just different frames around this single image of AJ looking like a smug git. And I found it way too funny. I don't know why.
AJ's great. He's just got the most punchable face too. Really helps.
He does. He's just a smug shit, and you want to hit him. I can see why Jerry hates him. Jerry's just like, I just want to hit him. I think last note I have is Dory Funk showed up. He did a little promo about the good old days, talking about all the old guys.
Did he do like a shoot interview? Because they did like a weird trailer for a Dory Funk shoot halfway through this.
It wasn't even a shoot interview. It's like, what if we condensed a Dory Funk shoot down to like 2 minutes? That's what we're going to put on the show.
For like a second, I was like, did they do the Ring of Honor thing where they just like release their own branded shoot interviews or something?
It wouldn't have been the worst idea.
Yeah, like you get some guys in there and get Jarrett to go talk 2 hours and then release it on DVD.
It was a nice little segment though, talking about the good old days.
I like seeing Dory. Still wrestling. What a madman.
They asked him about Russo, and he's like, oh, Russo, what a piece of shit. He's like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. Sorry, guys. It just came out. Ugh. The final note I wanted to mention, November 29th in Jerry's book. I spent the morning working at home on show number 24. This show reflects a lot of segments suggested by Jeff and Vince Russo. I really have no opinion as to how good or bad the show will be received. It is a great deal different from our past shows. My concern is that the fans might feel there is too much backstage content and too little in-ring action. If the backstage segments go well, the show could be exciting. My other concern is the way that the show is building to a match between Jeff and Truth against the Harris Bros, and my fear is nobody will care. The Harris Bros get a great deal of negative criticism from the internet and this podcast.
Except for Garrett.
Stop it. Leave me alone.
What? They're your guys. You're the one who keeps talking about how much you love the Harris brothers.
You were the one who said that if they weren't Nazis, I'd like them. So you were the one who was on the hook for liking the Harris Bros.
If they weren't Nazis, I would like them. You like them because they are. I was going to drop it, but you make it too easy.
You're a bully. You're a bully and a mean person. But yes, that's a foreshadowing for what is to come. The further Vince Russo influenced content, which we will cover in 2 weeks on the December 2002
I can't wait
episode.
for these shows to get way more difficult to watch.
To be fair, they'll probably be more interesting to talk about. For all the wrong reasons.
Yeah, but it takes me 2 hours to talk about them. It takes me 8 hours to watch them.
That is November 2002, a very happening month. Lots of Vince Russo, big world title change, some good X Division stuff, some horrible gay bashing stuff. TNA.
Yeah, sounds about right, huh?
If you'd like to support the show more, you can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/kiddingme. I would suggest you wait until Wednesday to do so, because you will be charged now and charged again at the start of the month. So do not subscribe until the start of next month. That is my advice. I'm giving you that warning right here.
My advice is subscribe right now.
Liam wants the double money. Liam is horrible and selfish,
Wow.
where I am out for the interest of the fans.
I don't care. Give me your money.
Patreon.com/kiddingme, where you can get a watch along of NWA-TNA pay-per-view number 22. We also did a review of Chris Rock's Head of State. We also did a watch along of WrestleMania 26. Plus, next week, we will also have the episode 6 of Monday War Games. So that's all the Patreon content you can look forward to. Support us, patreon.com/kiddingme. You can follow me on Twitter at Garrett Kidney, TAORETTKIDNY. You can follow Liam at Twitter, yes, at the Gleet Muta.
Follow me at Twitter.
Yeah, Liam runs the Twitter account.
I run at Twitter. I am Jack.
Yes, you are Jack. You can follow Liam on Twitter at the Gleet Muta. You can follow our podcast on Twitter at TNA History Pod. We'll see you in 2 weeks as we cover December 2002. Thanks for listening, and bye-bye.
Fuck. I didn't prepare anything.
Really got to come up with a goodbye.
How about, oh shit, that's Vince Russo.
Oh, you nailed it.
Oh, no, what's the other one? This product sucks.